Hello there, Grassroots family. Welcome to Season 3 of Grassroots Radio. I am your host, Unique Bird, coming to you from a cemetery. I actually left my house, came to a cemetery to sit in the grass and record and edit this podcast because I needed a break from the internet. And I'm sure it's no mystery as to why I needed that break. We are experiencing unprecedented chaos in this moment. It's hard to believe this year is almost halfway done already, and it seems like the only thing that's happened so far is disaster after disaster. We're seeing crazy levels of police brutality and racial violence happening in the United States, and as a result, ripples of viral and violent, in many cases, protests spreading throughout the Western world, all during a global pandemic that we are still uncertain whether is over or whether we're going to be seeing second waves of this sickness spreading throughout our societies as people are increasingly pouring out into the streets, whether in protest or just out of sheer restlessness. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy time. As a result, a lot of us may be experiencing crazy levels of anxiety, crazy levels of depression, sadness, anger, fear, frustration. And as someone who has taken on the responsibility to hold space for this community in particular, I wanted to do my part to make sure that even though I'm from a distance, people have some place to congregate together and to make meaning and make sense of what's happening and to support each other if that's what's needed. So, in an effort to do that, I'll be holding a coaching circle, or you could call them deep check-ins just to begin with, weekly, probably on Sundays. But if you would like more information about that, or you would like to join, you can head over to thenewgrassroots.com, click on Get Involved, and there you're going to find all the information you need about what exactly a coaching circle is. Don't worry if it sounds kind of intense. We're going to be starting slow, meeting everyone where they are. But I do think it's important to have this space and to connect so that we can find some solace and some order amidst the chaos. So for this week, I'm presenting to you a beautiful conversation, I think anyway, with one of my favorite people, who is none other than my co-founder in the New Grassroots, Fernella Francis. And we cover a wide range of topics. I would not even know how to begin to summarize this conversation. But I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you can take some hope or some inspiration in some little piece of it. And yeah, just sending you all so much love and so much care.
My name is Fernella Francis. I am 25 years old, just turned 25, be 25. I work full-time as a customer service representative. I also have a makeup business, and I decided to do this idea with Unique to start the New Grassroots, and it's been a hell of a ride so far, but I wouldn't take it back for anything. And I am a bit of an empath, so I try to practice ways to keep that under control.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Fernella. You're obviously a very special guest, being the co-founder of the New Grassroots. And you're also someone that I have a tremendous amount of admiration, gratitude, and love for. So I'm hoping that we can make some magic here today. And go, kind of deep.
So I guess my first question is, what drew you to want to be involved with the new Grassroots in the first place? Because when we first met, as people usually are, we were
Mhm.
complete and total strangers. So
Wow.
how did it go from that to like this 4 year long partnership that it's been so far?
I don't even know. Okay, so as a child, my parents always used to have me involved in a lot of different church activities. I was an altar server. I used to help my mom prepare cakes and every other thing that she could possibly pull out of her sleeves to create for these fundraisers. Um, she was a she was a catechist, so she was really involved, needless to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I was already kind of accustomed to being up out of my bed at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning preparing stuff for these things. So I guess as I got older, I continued with volunteer work. I at one point I was a part of Rotaract. I, uh, I dabbled in a few others, but like never really found my place. Um, After a while, I always felt a little, I don't know. It's after a while, some things started feeling forced, and so I would always kind of withdraw myself. So when I met you and you told me about this, my first instinct was like, oh God. I cannot do I cannot do another one. I don't think I can. And
And I
my
mean,
other
you were
words
also a university student at the time.
right. Right. Um yeah, and university work was pretty stressful actually. And I was of course very involved there as well because I couldn't help myself. Um so at first I was reluctant. And you knew this, but sometime you came back to Antigua and we met again and you spoke with me about it. And at that time, I was just coming back from UE, had nothing to do. And I was like, you know what? Why not? She seems like a cool person.
Aw.
um, and I think actually what really got me or what really moved me to was the point of I have to like do anything in my power to make this work is when we did the coaching circle. And yeah, like we spoke about some really personal stuff, and it's never been easy for me to open up to anyone about anything that would have happened to me or anything that I went through as a younger person. But you were so open and receptive to everything I said, and it really helped my learning and healing process. I was even able to use some of the tactics and strategies when I was working at the time at Outdoor World. Because
Yeah,
we all had the, yeah, I remember
I
telling you about
remember
it.
those times.
um, but we all had our little days to do, our mornings to chair the morning meeting. And sometimes I'd use some of the things that I learned with you at that time. And I think it just went from there. The more we spoke about it, the more we met, the more that happened is the more that I believed. And the closer we got, and I guess at this point, I'm just as invested as you know.
Yeah, sometimes even more, I would say. I mean, you're really the engine part of the new Grassroots, I would say. Like, I'm kind of a brain off somewhere. I mean, I'm not even in Antigua, which is the first thing. And you've always had this way of like bringing other people into the circle as well. And you do that so naturally. Like, I don't even know how you're doing that, but it just happens.
That is true. um, I guess there's like a big part of me that is just like, um, because I believe in this so much now, and I believe in you and what we can accomplish. And the fact that I know that a movement like this is very much needed and will be accepted the more people I speak to about it. I guess that's kind of what just keeps me going. Like I am I like to think of myself as like a facilitator. So I kind of want to be that person to just put the puzzle pieces together and make it work. So whether it is that I need to go and speak to a random lady that that just popped into a meeting that said that she might have some experience in nonprofits, or I need to make the phone call that makes me uncomfortable because I just don't like talking to people. I feel like at this point, Grassroots has been helping me grow, and I want nothing but to see it grow as well, because I know how much it's done for me. I know it can do a lot for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, one of the founding principles of the new Grassroots has always been like, we want people to come into it and make it their own in some way. And we actually want the members, like anyone who's a part of this, to also benefit from it. So I think it's really super important that you yourself feel like this is an avenue that's been really important for your personal growth and maybe your professional growth as well. I wonder, though, how has this experience in particular with the new Grassroots been different from your previous experiences with community work or working with churches, or even things that you would have done while you were in university, volunteer-wise?
Well, for one, I have never been a co-founder. And just like any other business, you really are the dishwasher, the cook, the sometimes the person who tends to the lawn, the sweeper, everything. And I think for one, it's just a little bit more exciting, to be honest, to be the one that has to think about all these different moving parts. And I think also working so closely with someone who gives me a new perspective basically every time we meet.
Sorry about it.
No need. I think that's also one of the things that the driving factors. It's also been that it's also something I believe in. Like, I absolutely love my country and want the best for it. And I absolutely want to see the best in people individually. And I think the new Grassroots is a good marriage of the two. I get to express myself as I am. I don't feel like I have to fit into something. And I have never, for all the people we've worked with recently, or over the years that we've been doing this, I don't think any one of them have ever told me that they felt like they had to be this different person just to be a part of us or whatever. If anything, because, we had a few members, and then because of other life commitments, they had to draw back. Some of them would say, yo, I really miss being a part of this movement. And I see the fact that they miss it because they continue to share our stuff. They continue to talk about us with someone else. I think also my other issue with some of the groups I would have been a part of is, like any other line staff, I kind of felt like that. I kind of felt like we met, they kind of said what they're doing. They gave us some instruction, and then we kind of just went on our way. Whether it would be just okay, so we're going here this day to do this, and we need some volunteers. There wasn't much involvement in after the volunteer work. And I think it would have been a little bit, at least for me personally, it would just feel nicer to be a little bit more involved. I felt like the only time they needed me is when it would just involve doing like some manual work. And there were
Right.
some times when you didn't see the people who were giving these instructions doing that work as well. Not in every group I've been with, but there has been some. I think also it doesn't feel forced. Like it feels like I'm doing something that is maybe I might not see the change in my lifetime, but I know that if it's something that we keep up, it's the cultural shift that we could possibly have or possibly influence is what I am excited for. There's some other groups where it's just, clean a beach or something. And I know, of course, that has some effects long term for in other ways, but I don't know, it just never seems altogether mindful. It's kind of just like we're a nonprofit and this is what we're supposed to do because we're a nonprofit.
I love that you use the word mindful, because that is kind of the big difference with this group, is that mindfulness is really a big part of the selling feature of it. And it's a big part of our entire process. Like it starts with mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm reading this book, Systems Thinking for Social Change. I forget the name of the author, or rather, I don't think I can pronounce it properly. But in it, they kind of dissect like the difference between the traditional nonprofit way of operating, which is you identify a problem and then you come up with like a way that you can solve it basically as quickly as and efficiently as possible, which oftentimes lead to band-aid effects, like say a problem like homelessness. People will set up shelters, but the whole point of a shelter is that it's a temporary housing. So then, someone can stay there for a week or so, but then they have to move on. And the time that they spend there isn't enough to really disrupt their trajectory. So they just end up homeless again.
Right.
And the system that supports that rewards those organizations that can kind of do that cycle quickly enough. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really solve the problem of homelessness. And I think that a lot of social problem solving works on that model, which actually continues to create the conditions that give you the problem. Whereas what we're trying to do is take a completely different, wider sort of system level look at things and see what are the conditions creating the problems and how could we change those conditions, and how can we start like really simple with just the individuals who are sort of already in that zone and thinking differently.
Right. It's almost like the phrase, teach a man to give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to fish and he can eat for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of what we're doing kind of revolves around that. It moves away from problem fixing and more to problem solving, because then you give someone a new mindset and you never know what they can do with that. I like to look at how people made it from nothing to something. And one of the things that they always talk about is the fact that, or one of the things some of them talk about is that they always had this I have to make it mindset, and they were willing to make the sacrifices along the way. Whereas someone else who doesn't have that mindset, who's always in this feeling sorry for myself, or this is never going to change usually, or those people, they never really make it out of their terrible circumstance. But I think that starting on an individual level and starting in the mind of someone is probably how you solve a problem.
And I mean, another part of that approach is, coupled with mindfulness, there is an empathy dimension to it as well, because it's not just going in and telling someone that they need to be different in some way, but it's actually listening to them in such a way that it allows them to like reveal things about themselves or reveal more about the forces that might be acting on them, creating the mindset that they might be stuck in or the situation that they might be stuck in.
Right, right. That's one thing that's usually difficult to identify on your own.
Yep. That's what they call in Theory U the blind spot. It's like, I guess you could say for the average person, we don't really think too deeply about why we're doing the things that we're always doing. Like we might have some sort of story about it. Like you were saying when we were doing our coaching calls, you may have had a story about why certain things happened the way that they did in your childhood and how that's impacted you, or how like the kind of person that you've become as a result of these things. And without like sitting down purposely and deliberately like examining the details of that story and having someone who can kind of point out inconsistencies in it, you just kind of stay with it.
Yeah, you do. Because you have that person who can be objective in that situation where it may be difficult for you to be at that time. It's definitely been something that's really changed my life.
I'm so glad. Because honestly, it changed my life. Like when I was first introduced to this kind of stuff, it, I don't know, radically changed everything that I was doing. Like my job is different, my career is different, my outlook is different. Like everything has just been different since that point. And it's remarkable to see that it hasn't actually been that long. I mean, I guess 2015 is when I first started learning about this. So
That's not long.
5 years?
About 5 years.
In the scope of my entire life?
Oh my God. That's a whole 5 years. But
man.
like, I know this is more about me, but like, how has it continued to help you now that you're actually also like teaching it?
Okay. The interviewer has become the interviewee. So, I mean, it's okay. You know, sometimes you learn something and you're not really sure, like, if you know it or if it's for real or if it's just that, I don't know, maybe I'm taking it a certain way and this isn't actually what it is. But especially since, like, teaching you, I see the value in this work like way more because I can actually look back now over the course of 4 years and go, this is when I inserted this, know, into Fernella. And like, you're so different. I find that you have so much more confidence, and that might just be a function of age as well, and like all the different experiences that you had in that time. But even when you're reporting back to me about the way that you're engaging with other people, I can see that mindfulness and that empathy at work in everything that you do, which is just totally friggin' awesome. And, you know, kind of the same for anyone else that I've taught. Like I work with organizations doing some of this stuff, and it's really cool to see people come into a room completely confused, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. We're not really clear on what the purpose of our org is or how to go about engaging people, and then taking them through these steps. And at the end, they're like, this is our game plan. This is who we need to talk to. And they have this higher sense of what's possible. You mentioned earlier, like, part of the difficulty of social problem solving in particular is that things have been the way that they are for so long that people have a hard time imagining anything different.
Right.
Other night, I was listening to the Snake Pit, and the host kind of threw out this question like, oh, why do you think that Antiguans have the relationship that they do with their government or with the ALP in particular? And a number of the people who called in actually said, like, you know, these are my problems, XYZ, but I cannot imagine it being any other way. And that's like the problem right there. We can't imagine it being any other way.
That
So
is so true.
so then how do you know what your first step is if you can't imagine the outcome that you want?
Well, if you're accustomed to something for such a long time, sometimes you need someone to introduce something new to you. Like the other day, I was having a chat with I don't remember who it was. It might have been Theoni. I was telling her about someone who was sharing a story with me that they're finding it difficult to save. And this is a person who is years older than me.
So like saving
And
money, just generally putting money away.
yeah. And they were saying that it's just so difficult to fight their impulses and blah 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 blah. And at first, like for the first minute of them telling me this, I told them, but in my head, I was saying, you're years older than me. How is this possible? Like, I know it's difficult to save, like, but like from the standpoint of, it's difficult for me because I can't fight my impulses. Like, I have impulses, but I fight them. So it dawned on me just after I had this thought that, these people are not surrounded by the same people you are. They didn't have the lessons that you had. They don't have the friends that you have. They don't have half the things as it pertains to influence that you have. So I felt so bad. Like, I was scolding myself in my head. Even though something now may seem a little bit more manageable for me, I know that it took time for me to build it or to get it that way.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been this way had I not had certain people around me, like you.
Yeah. So I can imagine how if you're trying to make changes by yourself, in an environment that isn't conducive to the changes, or people who are actually like pulling you towards your impulsiveness, how that can make the situation real hard.
Real hard. We press on one way or another. And I guess that's why we're gifted with these opportunities to meet these types of people who have this influence on us. Because that way we can pass it on to somebody else.
Amen. Question about that. Was there a moment where you decided, like, I'm going to specifically curate my friends or my social circle or anything like that? Or did it kind of organically form that way?
Oh, no. I made that decision consciously. And
When would you say that happened?
Why or when?
When?
There was a point where I was out with a few friends and I couldn't get my ride. And my ride back home, they wouldn't pick up because when they go to sleep, that's it. I tried calling a few people, couldn't get them. And so I asked someone who I thought was like a friend for a ride home. But they had plans, with someone else, after a party and thing,
How you mean?
And yeah, like I would have been cool with it. Like if they had said, no, I can't right now. I'm really sorry. Or they didn't even have to apologize. All they had to say was, I can't.
Yeah, or no, or whatever.
Right. All they did was said, well, I'll see. And so they were the only person who I knew. Well, not that I knew at the party, but they were the one of the only people that I would trust there. So they were obviously going to be my first pick. And they said, we'll see. And then a few minutes later, they left. And they didn't tell me anything and whatever. And so I had to find another ride home. And it was at that moment when I realized, maybe, like I don't have anything against them. I've gotten over it, like all the way over it.
Yeah.
But it was a turning point for me where I actually sat down and thought about, hey, maybe you need to think more about who you surround yourself with, type of friends you have, because it's not like they were adding any like real value to my life. It was just one of those friends that you have because of another circle that you're a part of, or somebody else was a friend. And
situational friendships,
right? Those types of friendships, and I would admit at that time I didn't really even know what a friend was. I just kind of knew that, well, we hang out quite a bit in the same place. So I guess we're friends enough. Yeah, so that happened. And then I started reevaluating who I surround myself with and what type of influence they have in my life as a person or whoever. So yeah, that's why I can't remember exactly like when it happened, but
right?
That for sure was a turning point.
But it sounds like you were like a young adult.
Yeah, young enough to like not really know everything I need to know about friendship and people and all of that, but old enough to I guess be in that type of situation.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how you phrased that. Like, you were young enough to not really know what friendship really was. But I'm like, at what age are you supposed to know those things just organically, or is it a process of being taught in some way? I feel like there are a lot of people that probably just go through life not being very conscious about who they're forming friendships with or forming any kind of relationships with. It's just kind of like whoever I happen to be around are the people that I end up bonding with.
I think it has a lot to do with like even just how you value yourself personally. I think I at that time didn't have that much self-worth and self-value and self-love. I think that's how you determine anything, whether you're gonna make even like in the business world, are you gonna get into a business relationship with this person if they're a little strange, if you can't trust their actions? Are you gonna go down the road with this person if you're just not exactly sure who they are and if they'll have your best interest at heart? All of those things. I don't know if there's an age where it should happen, but I think it only comes at the point where you have a lot more self-love.
You know me, I'm always kind of thinking about scale, and I wonder, like, is there a way that we can make those things like self-love, self-care, having an intrinsic sense of value about yourself? How can we make those things more normal? Like, how can we start introducing those things to children so that by the time that they're old enough, they've had some practice, at least in a safer environment like school, whatever, to develop the ability to judge those things for themselves. I feel like so much of our education has to do with like filling you up with a bunch of facts and knowledge and information, and not a lot about how do you how do you behave, how do you be a person, how do you take care of yourself, which is like the most of life. It's the most.
Yes, literally the most. Like the biggest part of life. But
relating.
like I listened to this singer, reggae artist. She's called Janine. Someone told me this, and I didn't necessarily like think about it too much. But then there was one day I was listening to her and it hit. She speaks a lot about like how to develop your own self-love and appreciation. And she also speaks about it more so from the female standpoint than anything else. And she was thinking about like how we raise children. You know, you raise children to this is bad, this is good, but we don't always give them an explanation. And we like to say no, and we don't necessarily give them a chance to express themselves and their thoughts. We don't question them enough, you know, that so that they can explore their thoughts. We kind of just tell them what to do. And of course, for anyone, it takes some time to learn what to do, to learn how to behave, to learn whatever. And if you are not aware what voice in your head is from me, like what voice is mine, and what voice is from someone else, somewhere else, who that I learned, I don't know, that I picked up 5 years ago. Is that the voice? And I think even a few months ago, I had this conversation with someone about like how to distinguish your voice from someone else's voice. And it takes a lot of, what's the word? It takes a lot of like internal thought processes. Like you have to ask yourself a lot of different questions. And then over time, you'll kind of know, okay, so this is what I like. This is the type of personality I have. This is like who I am. So more than likely, this voice is mine. So for me personally, like I'm a full-blown introvert and I've been trying to run away from it. So I try to surround myself with people who, you know, did all the stuff. And I tried to mimic what they did and all of that. And it never really worked out in my favor because I'm just not that person. Like I'm not, like I don't want to do these things. Like I just want to exist within myself. I want to exist at home, or, you know, I want to be a part of more, like, even if I do go out and socialize, I want to socialize in smaller settings with more people that I can trust and reason with and have a good conversation. And I don't want to just go out and drink and whatever. Like I actually don't like those things. Like I think if I'm out with a few friends and there's good music playing, like I do it. Like I want to dance and thing and whatever. But like I am just not like a fat person,
Right.
like those types of things. So I had to take a while to learn even that about myself, that I don't like pets. I just thought I was strange, you know?
There's a lot of
Like,
cultural pressure around those things as well.
yes.
So it can be very hard to distinguish like what is me genuinely wanting to and what is just pressure.
Yeah, lots of pressure. Lots of pressure. But, you know, with time, I was able to learn what voice is mine, what voice is someone else's. And it is something that you can teach your children from a very young age. But my mom's confirmation class, I would always tell her, hey, y'all need to teach more than just Jesus stuff. You should try to teach more, not more, but incorporate other types of skills that these students, children will need growing up. So skills like knowing how to talk to yourself, knowing how to motivate yourself, any type of personal development stuff. Like they don't tell you about any of those things. They just tell you the Lord will provide. But there needs to be more than that we tell them. And like I can speak from experience with that because, like I told you, I was heavily involved in church, and I was an altar server. And of course, when I got older and I was looking for those summer jobs and those Christmas jobs, I was put in, oh yeah, I was an altar server for this amount of years, and I helped out with this for this amount of years, and I mean years. Actually, I sent my resume to my sister, and she was like, "Can you take that off of your resume? That nobody cares that you're an altar server."
Right. So
Nobody
it's like, what is
cares.
the point of occupying young people with these things if they don't actually provide any value once you're into the real world, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Do you know how disappointing that was? I mean, I wasn't just doing it because of that. I actually quite liked altar serving. But it was pretty disappointing that I spent my entire childhood doing that alone when I could have been out and participating in other groups that would have developed my social skills, how I speak to people. I personally still cannot look someone in the eye for too long. And like, that's not good. I still can't do that. I still don't know how to do it.
That's an interesting one. The whole eye contact thing. I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I think sometimes that's why I come off as intimidating, because I make a lot of eye contact. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So we kind of spent some time talking about some of the difficulties and, some of the hang-ups that we have culturally. But what are you grateful for having learned, I guess, in your childhood? What are some of the lessons that you can take from then that are actually still serving you today?
Probably discipline. My family wasn't like poor, but we had a budget that we had to stick to. And my mother made it clear to us before we went into the supermarket that you can either have how many things I can have. So if I can have one thing, whether it's a candy bar or something, and even when I picked up that thing, she would look at the price and say, pick something else. And you just had to comply. Like, she didn't, or at least I wasn't, I didn't get like licks when I was younger. I think my mom must have hit me once because I had chips, and I had never chips at my mother again. Never. But also, when she would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make these things for church fundraising sales and all of those stuff. Like, all of those things taught me that if you're gonna commit to something, you gotta commit. And if you her telling me that I can only have one thing in the supermarket shows that she's still allowing me to be a child and to experience things that I like, but you must always have a limit.
Right.
And it also, my mom has to me, I think she has excellent savings and spending habits. And from a child, watching her pick up things in the supermarket, looking at it for so long, although it was annoying, and I still don't do that.
Oh yeah.
It still showed me that still be thoughtful in the things that you do. Know what you need, what you don't need, and that type of stuff. So I think I'm very grateful for those two things in particular.
Yeah, let's talk about your university experience a bit. Because, I mean, I met you when you were a student in university, and just, I have fragments of memories of things that you would have said at that time. And it's also one of these experiences that I'm always really interested in because, when you are from Antigua and your parents or whoever, the board of education, kind of spends the money to send you somewhere to study, it's a big deal. And oftentimes we go in with one set of expectations or ideas, and then we come out completely differently. So I'm always interested in how the university experience shaped people. So what did you study? What was your intention going into university? And then how did you feel like that shifted coming out of university?
Okay. So I studied psychology with management. Psychology was my major and management was my minor. So I did less management subjects or lectures or courses than I did psychology. And I had the intention of being a psychologist. Why did I pick that?
Why did you pick that?
I needed to go to university because my friends were, right?
Naturally.
I kid you not, that was my rationale. Like, I had these group of friends. They were progressing in the educational world, and I thought that I might as well progress with them. And they, of course, encouraged me as well.
The desire to go to university came more so from your friends than from your family?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, like, they encouraged me as well, but I didn't know what I wanted to be. So me going to university at the time was more so because my friends were taught the value from whoever they were around, their parents, whoever, and I was taught the value through them. Of course, some of my family members would then say, "Oh yeah, you should go," and offer some encouragement. But I think at that time I listened more to my friends than I did family. I think it was just that stage in my life where young people do that. But yeah, so I didn't know what I wanted to be. I knew that I liked listening to people's problems and I seemed to give good advice. And I said, maybe I should just be a psychologist. One day I just happened to go through the list again and I saw it had psychology with management. I was like, I feel like that would be more interesting to do just because I kind of like management as well. Because I liked the business subjects that I did in high school and stuff. So I changed my application to psychology with management, got in, got my scholarship, went on to university. And my intention was to stay somewhere by myself. However, I wasn't looking early enough and all of those places were taken. So a friend of mine we were just acquaintances at the time. She was also, two other persons were also looking for a place to stay. And one of them found a 3-bedroom and they were like, hey, we could just stay here. And then once we get there, we can start looking for somewhere else.
Right.
So we all said, okay, cool, that's no problem. We can do that. We got there and like I told you, an introvert. So I didn't know how I felt about staying in a place with two other people who, like, we weren't like real close friends as yet. But I tried to go into it with an open mind. They seem like really sweet and stuff, so why not? And I ended up loving it. The first thing that I learned while being there was that I actually loved staying with the both of them. I struggled with my female friendships because I wasn't this very preppy, like want to do all the things, have my hair done and my nails and, the girly stuff. Like I wasn't
But now you're a makeup
into
artist, so
girl. Yeah. But I was still a big tomboy back then. So I didn't necessarily fit in with like the conversations and like the things that they would want to do. So I always struggled with my female friendships. But this one it just worked. Like we looked out for each other. When we were coming home from school, we made sure everyone was in the house at night. If there was any time that any of us were going to be out a little later, we always made sure to say something, just because you don't want anyone to worry.
Right.
There was even a time when one of us couldn't, the money from the scholarship was taking a while to get to them. And the other two of us, we pitched in and they hated it, of course, because they didn't want to be a burden. But we said, we're not going to just let you not eat. Like that's impossible. We'll never do that to you. And we built a friendship over time. And it's only at that point I saw the need for female friends. I saw the need to just like be around them and talk to them about my experiences. Even like you can't talk about certain things with men.
Nor should you.
Nor should you, right? So they having the opportunity to talk to them about some things that I might have went through, or to like get their reasoning on maybe somebody I liked at the time, whatever the case is, having a different female ear to listen. And they were both pretty reasonable with me, and both very rational persons. Mm-hmm. So I always got really good advice from them, advice that I probably still implement to this day. But yeah, it was only at that time when I realized having female friends is important. Like having this gang.
Pause for a second just to say, like, or just celebrate female friendships, because they are amazing and they are important.
Yes.
And I have also historically struggled with female friendships. And I guess I kind of went through a phase of being like, oh, I'm that girl who's not like friends with girls because I don't know how to girl. And trying to make it a cool thing when it wasn't. But oh my God, like I do so much appreciate my female friends now, because they are the people who will take care of you, even when you don't know how to take care of yourself, or when you don't know how to ask for help. They're the ones that are always stepping in and like, playing that motherly figure or that big sisterly figure. And it's friggin' amazing when women support each other. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, it is amazing. It really is. Like it was such a big life changer for me, and I wish it was a thing earlier.
Yeah.
This is kind of where my love for makeup came from as well, because I was so close with these young ladies. I saw how much they did to get themselves together and whatever. Actually, how could I forget? Zoe lived at the bottom of us, and she used to come and push these makeup tutorial videos in my face and say, oh yeah, we should try this, we should try that. And at first I'm just like, no, why would I do that? I'm sitting down here for 20 something minutes looking at somebody pound their face with a sponge. And then I watched a video and I was in love. I was just like, what is this world? So I tried it out. Like I tried out the different techniques. I really liked them. I got really good because I'm usually good with doing things with my hands. And I eventually, like people at UE, when I would go out, they would notice my makeup looks really nice. And they're like, who does your makeup? And I'm like, I do it. I just watch YouTube videos and then they tell me what to do. They tell me how to put on the thing and what to do with it. So I just follow it. And even then, when I look back at my pictures, I'm just like, my makeup wasn't that good. But people liked it. Yeah. So after a while, one or two persons would ask me to do their makeup. And I was I was reluctant at first because, I don't know, you just feel afraid to mess up.
Right.
But then I gave it a try and it wasn't so bad. I decided, well, why not do something to supplement what my parents have to send to me every month? So if I do this, then maybe I can make a little extra coin so that I can then just buy the things that I want to buy, like a cute little dress or whatever the case is. Because, we have fet upon fet upon fet. To go to. So yeah, like
it became your university hustle.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Cool.
I used to ask people to bring their own foundation because I couldn't afford to buy all the different foundation shades.
Right.
So I just asked them to do that. And then I would use the products I had and just finish the rest of it. And by the time I was done, I still wasn't 100% serious about it because it was, just makeup. I still thought that I wanted like an actual like corporate job or something.
How corporate are we talking?
Oh, man,
I guess because management, right? So
yeah. Well, actually, I went in wanting to be a psychologist, realized I hated psychology and all the courses that they had offering. I just did what I had to do, passed, just get it out of the way. I guess that's why I wasn't like too keen on going to graduation, but because I felt like my whole university life was a fraud. So I thought about doing human resource management, and by the time I came back, I was planning to pursue it. I think I even did like a course with a consultant, and realized I didn't like that either.
Mm-hmm.
But all this time, I'm still not taking the makeup like full on.
Like seriously,
like I'm still not like I'm still just like it's just a hobby. So I'd have clients on and off. There'd be times when I just tell people no, I don't want to. And then I think it wasn't until I decided I was gonna move out that I said that maybe I should take the makeup thing more seriously, just because it'll probably help with paying some of my bills.
Mm-hmm.
But, just at the beginning of any business, you're still very naive and young, and you feel like as soon as you start, you can start to make money right away, forgetting that you have to repurchase products. There are other operational costs that you have to consider. Didn't consider none of those things. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Just jump back into it.
Yep.
And I had a rude awakening. But I stuck with it this time. At first, just like I did with my friendships, I just tried to just like fit in to the makeup market in Antigua. But there were just so many different things happening, and a lot of people were gravitating towards all this big, bold eye makeup and all of that stuff. And that wasn't me. Like, that wasn't something I wanted to do. So it became very stressful. But with time, I realized, like with anything you do, you kind of just have to be authentically you. If my brand or if what I want from my brand is to do light, natural makeup, makeup that's not too busy. It's flattering. It complements the beautiful structure and features that we already have, rather than trying to just paste something on someone's face. And it just it's cool if people like to do that. It's real cool. But that's just not who I wanted to be and what I wanted my brand to be. Like, even how I do my makeup personally, it's not how I do it. At first, I thought I was being selfish, and I shouldn't, try to, hold on, I lost my train of thought. At first, I thought I was being selfish and that I shouldn't try to make my brand into something just because this is how I feel. So I tried to do some research on it and found out that it is a thing that people recommend to makeup artists to find what your brand is. Yes, there are some times when you're gonna have a client who wants to do something that's a little bit different than what you want to do with your brand, but that does not mean that that's what you have to do every single time. And if you continue to push out a certain quality of work, a certain type of makeup, eventually the people who want that service from you will gravitate towards you. They will come. And I've found that even more than doing these social media marketings and all these pictures and videos that I'm doing now, just having a one-on-one conversation with someone about their skin, the problems they have with their makeup right now, and just how they feel about the makeup process. A lot of people just don't want the extra. But more mature clients,
they don't want that, and some of them shy away from going to get their face done just because they don't want to have to be subjected to that type of look.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when I have these conversations one-on-one with someone, they're just like, oh my God, like this is exactly what I want. This is exactly, who I feel like I would be if I got my makeup done more often and whatever. Unfortunately, a lot of these people don't do their makeup as often
Right.
as some of the people who like the more extraness. But like, I still appreciate when a few months down the line, I get a message from them, hey, so I'm going to dinner for work, or my friend's birthday, or whatever it is. They remember me just because of that conversation I had with them about my process and my brand. So at the end of the day, I think I'm really, really happy that I decided to not just go with the grain and what everyone else was doing, but I decided that I'm going to set myself apart in this way. It has taken a lot of time, and I'm still learning and developing my skill and my brand. But I think that it's probably one of the best decisions, if not the best decision I've made so far, like as an adult.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
it also sounds like you're bringing that mindfulness and that empathy into what you're doing with your makeup clients as well. So it's kind of cool to see
Yeah.
that crossover too.
Yeah, because I mean, when you think about it, if you're stressed out, like a lot of people have like stress breakouts and stress skin problems. So, like, if you're stressed out, and you don't like necessarily like take care of your skin generally, then putting makeup on top of it isn't really going to solve any problems for anyone.
Nope.
But I think in everything you do, regardless of what it is, you should practice some sort of mindfulness. It should never just be, okay, well, I'm just going to do it. There should be a reason behind it. There should always be some form of intention setting. Like, what do you want to come from it? What are you trying to achieve? Like, I did a video the other day about doing your makeup for going back to work. And there are so many mornings I get up and I'm like, I really have to go work today. And I say, you know what? I have some extra time. Let me just do my face very quickly. And by the time I'm done, I feel so good. Like, I feel so like I'm ready to tackle the day just because I took that extra little 20 minutes with myself just to do something that I would like to do, that I want to do, to make yourself look pretty. At the end of the day, when you go out to work and people see your face, they could be like, oh my God, you look so pretty. Little ego boost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like with anything I try to do now, I always try to set some type of intention. I always had to practice some sort of intention setting.
Well, Ferns, it was awesome talking to you, as it always is.
See, it's always easy to talk to you.
Well, I mean, I just sit here and listen, so it's the easiest for me. Just let the Fernella-ness wash over me. Man, do I have a last question? Do you have last thoughts?
Patience. I haven't always been a patient person who is willing to just like wait for life to throw something at me, or wait for things to fall into place. And it's one of the biggest things I've had to learn through every situation that I've been through. It's always been like the cornerstone, patience. Just although things may not be exactly the way that you want them to be right now, in this moment, you may be trying to work on anything, a skill, a talent, just in your regular day-to-day job. I think with time, anything is doable. You can accomplish anything. Although people say this like all the time in these motivational videos, it only really hits when you're in the situation, but it can also be one of the easiest things to forget. So anytime I am speaking to anyone about my journey, my journey personally and business wise, the first thing I always tell them is just remember to be patient with the process and patient with yourself, because you gotta know that if this is what you want, you should be able to just wait just a little bit sometimes.
It's a good lesson.
Too bad that's how to learn the hard way.
Over and over and over again.
Oh my God, look.
So, obviously, we've heard a lot from you, and now we want to make sure that we keep up with everything that you're doing. So where is the best place for us to do that online?
On, the regular social media platforms. My name is Fernella Francis on Facebook. My name is Ferns-ish on Instagram and Twitter. If you really want to see what I'm doing, check my makeup page. It's Aashka's Beauty. And check NGR. Check the new Grassroots, because that's where I am most of the time. That's where most of my energy is flowing right now.
And that's newgrassroots.com and Grassroots ANU on all other social media platforms.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem, Yanni. Thank you. Love you, love you, love you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Grassroots Radio. If you enjoyed the conversation, show some love and help spread the word. You can do that by subscribing on Apple, Google, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Already subscribed? Consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps other people find the show. If you have an idea for someone you want to see featured or a topic you want us to cover, let us know. DM us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at grassrootsanu or email us at thenewgrassroots@gmail.com. For more about NGR, visit us at thenewgrassroots.com. Until next time, this is Grassroots Radio.